Hello, hello.
Good morning.
Morning, 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 morning.
Morning.
How you doing, Kim?
Not too bad, but I've had a bit of a medical issue. So
Okay.
I've had it's an ocular nerve paralysis. It's a minor stroke.
Oh, sure.
So,
Okay.
given my heart history, it's not great news, but it'll take 3 months to regenerate.
Okay. Okay. Well, you're here. Let us know if we can help in any way.
Thank you.
Hello, Robin. Hello, Vilko.
Hey, Scott. Hey, everybody.
Hey, Shane.
Hey, Brent.
Morning, Scott.
Morning, morning. Let's see, everyone's joining still. I'll just let everyone join in before we get started. Robin, are you missing your man?
I am. Yeah, I am. But I'm becoming a good farmer in the process.
It's like forced farming.
Yeah, farming 101.
It's just right. Who's Diana? I have to say, one of the things I have to do is I'm now so confused as to who's in the morning group and who's in the afternoon group that I don't actually know anymore, like who to wait for, when to get going. It's just like, because people, I don't know if it's just me, but they seem to be chopping and changing, and I'm like so bloody confused as to like, anyway. Shane, we need to, if you don't mind, just make a note there. We need to just get on top of that because it got a little bit flexible in November, December with people moving and flying and whatever. And I don't actually even know who's officially in which one, if that makes sense. Hello, Dada.
Good morning.
Morning, morning. Okay, well, I suggest we rock and roll. Quite a big believer of starting on time. So I think before anything else, I don't know if anyone wants to join me in a little happy birthday song to Kerry. It's her 21st birthday, and I thought that it was quite nice that she was joining us on her 21st, as part of Mastermind. So I'm not going to sing a Kerry, so give it to me, but happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Kerry. Happy birthday
to you.
Kerry, that's about as good as it gets virtual with all the background noise and the different timings and all that. So you can see I've never been quite good at rhythm. So Dada, I was hoping you could help me out there. But anyway, thanks for assisting.
Thanks, God. Thank you.
Anyway, as I said to you in a personal note, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you're doing in terms of the whole training space and the financial space. I have an intuition around this is your next big chapter, if that makes sense. Awesome. Okay, so what we're going to do today is, Anu, are you there? I just want to check if you are connected. I can't see you, but I just want to know your voice isn't on yet. Let me just wait for him quickly. Get my screen up in the meantime. Okay, let me. Sorry guys, just give me 2 seconds. I just want to see what is happening with Hanu. Let me just I know, let me just send him a quick message. Just need to know whether we're going to get going or not. Yeah, I'm going to give it one more minute, and if it doesn't work, then I'm going to lock and lock because it doesn't seem to be connecting. Are you there? Anu, are you there? Where are you?
Hear me?
Oh, you're in.
Yeah, finally.
Okay, awesome. Well, welcome. I'm not quite sure sort of how we're going to do it in terms of, but obviously I just wanted to make sure everyone was in the room and we can get going. So Hanu, we just sang happy birthday to Kerry. It's her birthday today. So that's pretty much how we started 2020. What are we year? 2023 in terms of where we're at. So anyway, listen, welcome to all of you. It's wonderful to have you. You know, for me, I've been reflecting, and I'm sure many of you have, around the year and what we can expect from the year. I'd be very surprised if any of you didn't have conversations similar to the one I had with my uncle. If you've ever seen me do any presentation, you would have known I speak highly of my uncle. He's a highly successful investor living in Australia. And I'll tell you a quick personal story because I think it kind of sets the scene for the year. But my wife and I've got to get that right. My ex-wife and I own a house together on Teeson Island in Knysna. And, you know, it was sort of our family home that we bought. I was 35 when I bought it. I was the youngest person on the island by 20 years to buy on the island. And, you know, those things, and I'm sure you've all done it, where you completely stretch yourself to buy a house, like well beyond what you can afford. Anyway, long story short, we bought it. And then in 2019, 2020, I got separated and then divorced. But I made a commitment that I wanted to keep it for my son as kind of his family home, if you want to call it that. Anyway, it hasn't really worked out. It's the worst performing asset in the world because I have a tenant that doesn't pay any money and incurs expenses and refuses to rent it out on Airbnb, etc. So eventually I sort of sat with my ex-wife and I said, look, we need to cut ties here. Like, this is the last, you know, we got my son, but this is the last financial thing that we got to sort out. And so anyway, quite emotionally, we decided to put it on the market. And you know, it was weird because I'm going to kind of give you numbers, not only to kind of give you context. So I kind of had a valuation done at sort of around last year at the bank was at 10.5 million. And anyway, and then I got a new valuation done at Christmas and it was like 13.1. And anyway, so the estate agent said, well, let's put it on at 13.9. Okay. And I was like, these oaks are in woo-woo land. And anyway, so I did all the calculations based on 12.5. And we basically put the property on the market on the Thursday. We had 3 people come in, a little bit of humor for those South Africans in the room. This gentleman walks in and shakes my hand. He says, hi, I'm Quinton. And I shake his hand and go, hi, I'm Scott. I recognize you from somewhere. We've met, we've done something together. And he goes, yeah, I'm sure. And he walks in and I suddenly realize it's Quinton de Kock, the South African cricket captain, which, you know, as like now he's in my house, I'm like, oh my God, that's so embarrassing. The point of my story is that 3 days later, so that was 4 days later, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they did viewings. On Monday, we got the first cash offer for 12.5 million. On Tuesday, we got a cash offer for asking price. And on Wednesday, we got a cash offer plus asking price. Okay, and how does the human psychology work? I better not sell. This is like too good. Like, I better not get out of this asset. Like, this is crazy. I mean, there's like 3 cash offers at above asking price. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? Like this is crazy. And obviously there's the other side of the fence. Like, there's emotional, I don't know, I don't want to get too kind of, you know, in it, but like, is emotional and financial freedom, and I'm not talking in life, I'm talking from my ex-wife, and there's a benefit to that. But I'm a property guy. I'm like, you can't get out of this market. Like, I'll never get back in. Anyway, the point of my story is I phoned my uncle, and I've always my dad's long gone, and my uncle's always been my sort of sage around money. And I've never forgotten a story. He helped us invest in the stock market years and years ago. Well, I'm still investing with him. And I remember we sold gold on a Friday, and on a Monday, gold tanked. Okay, and I'll be honest with you, I got no idea how we did that. But anyway, so I phoned my uncle. I said, Bill, how did you know it was going to happen? Like, it didn't even happen like literally 2 trading days later. And he said, Scott, I never wait to the top of the market. Like, I'm happy to take a profit at 85%, because I win more often. I'm not always, I don't get on the other side of the curve. And I've never forgotten that story of him taking the profit off the table. Anyway, needless to say, without even phoning him, I knew what the advice would be. But when you just want to check, and I was like, Bill, like, is this crazy? Like, should I find some money to try buy out and keep the house? And your brain goes into solution mode. And he was like, Scott, you've made a good profit. You've done 10 years. It's a really good exit. Plus, you're going to get all the other emotional benefits of it. And actually, personally, I'm really worried about where the world economy is going. And yes, there's a bubble in Knysna because everyone in Joburg, Kim and all his friends are moving down to Knysna and Plet. But, like, how long is that going to last? Interest rates are going up. America's going into, recession. China's imploding on itself. And I have to say, like, there was a part of me that went, this was literally like the 3rd of January. I was like, oh boy, here comes this year. If you know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, the point of my story was the 2 things. One is I decided to sell, and I sold the property and kind of took some profit off the table, if you want to call it that. And the second one was, it made me start thinking about what is 2023 all about? What are we in for? Economically. And I thought it'd be quite a nice little context to just set the framework, because I don't know what everyone else thinks, and I'd love just to, before we get into the kind of the session, the traditional session, but just to kind of check in, like, where are you at? Not so much emotionally and kind of did you have a good holiday? We're going to get to a check-in just now, but I'm more asking, like, what's your thoughts on kind of where the world's going to go this year financially? based on what I just shared about my uncle, and subsequently since my uncle, I've heard that same story at least 5 times. So yeah, what does everyone else think around the year ahead financially?
Can I kick off, Scott?
Yeah, please. Anyone? It's popcorn style.
Yeah. So in Zimbabwe, we grew a crop of wheat last year. We only managed to do 10 hectares because the government was slow in getting seed out. And we've only just been paid for a portion of it now. That money's gone into the bank in ZWL, which will probably be worthless in a couple of months. But what is quite scary is that I think we're in for a big food shortage around the world. And it's just sad that Zimbabwe lost out on the opportunity. They should have seen that Ukraine wheat supplies were going to dwindle, and they had this marvelous opportunity to climb in and grow, put the whole country under wheat, and they haven't, and they haven't even managed to pay the farmers until now. And the maize crop should have already gone in, but they haven't managed to grow maize because they've been waiting for their wheat payment. So certainly in this country, we're in for famine. I'm not so sure about Zambia, but I do think we're in for a food recession, but that's been very negative. But I do think that COVID has hardened us all up and taught us a lot of lessons, and I think the world is now more ready emotionally and mentally to take on these big world problems.
Perfect. Thanks, Robin. Who else?
Yeah, Scott, I'll pop up next. I think that the idea of the recession in the States is going to be more of a psychological recession more than a a huge pop for the simple reason that the Fed is kind of hamstrung by the amount of debt that the US government is currently having. I mean, it is what 121% of GDP for the states that they've got in debt. So if the Fed raises rates too much, I don't think they can raise it much above about 5.5 at the upper limit. So going to bankrupt the government in the states, and then they're going to go back to what do you call it, monetary easings and all those kind of things. So I'm thinking we're very close to the top of the rate cycle on the state side, which of course then once more money again becomes available, more money is going to flow back to the risk on assets, and the whole cycle is kind of going to start repeating itself if you look at it from that angle then.
Okay, fascinating, thanks. Well, Derek and Graham's joining as well. Let me just let them join. Welcome, Derek, welcome, Graham. We're just having a quick conversation around opinions as to where we see 2023 financially, not personally, but like in world kind of economics, just to kind of get people's opinions and sentiment around the year ahead, if that makes sense. Anyway, thanks, Hanu. Anyone else? Just reminding you that you don't have to be a Harvard economics professor. It can literally be like, I don't know. Like,
well, Scott, from my side, two sides of the coin. I see in South Africa, you know, we're looking, I've got my family over here right now in Oz, but we're having a chat, and, you know, the whole load shedding thing, everybody's in agreement that that situation is not going to be fixed very quickly, if at all. And in fact, there's lots of rumors that the ANC government had the Eskom guys over and had a talk to them and said to them, you better ensure that there's power before the elections next year, even if it means that you collapse the grid. And in fact, I just saw an email or a thing on Twitter just a bit earlier, where somewhere on a farm in South Africa just now today, they had to kill 50,000 chickens because of load shedding, and they couldn't fix the infrastructure on that farm. And Eskom just said they're not going to fix the transformers or whatever it is. So if you thought the prices of eggs in America was high, I think there's some problems coming in South Africa. And of course, with the subsequent problems of load shedding. And in fact, you know, you might think that going into solar panels and those types of things are the way to go, which is probably the right thing to do. But the supply chain at this moment is very, very much stretched over there. So you won't get solar panels even if you want them. So that's all going to make life very, very difficult there, because that's just going to skyrocket the prices for all of those things, you know. So that's South Africa. And then in terms of Australia, I think it seems we are reaching the top of the inflation curve over here as well. I've read some interesting statistics around, you know, unemployment is at one of the lowest levels ever. The construction business is doing very, very well. 90,000 new jobs in the construction area, but they are running out of material and they don't have enough people and things like that. So I see the government over here wants to bring in, I saw yesterday, 300,000 immigrants into Australia, which will just...
are they looking for lowly skilled South Africans?
They're looking for anybody that's that can do the job, mate. So that's going to put even more pressure on the building industry and rents and housing. So I think the property market over here is going to be under pressure from a building perspective, and from, you know, paying your rate, what do you call it, or your rent. The rent's going to just bubble, That's my feeling. So yeah, interesting times ahead.
Awesome. Just by the way, and you know, sometimes with these masterminds, I'd love to tell you that I completely plan everything up front, but sometimes I kind of go with the flow, and which we're going to talk about today. And actually suddenly, like, this just made me think, like, when you got people in all different geographies, like, it's so valuable to get different context. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Exactly.
Any other opinions around kind of where you see the world going?
Graham here. I'm not sure whether I see where the world's going, but certainly in agriculture, which is where I work. And I think this is a lesson about prices. So interestingly, cattle prices have probably dropped 20-25% in the last 6 weeks. Yet in relationship to moving a light animal to a heavy animal, there was no profit at those high prices. And now the prices have dropped, the margins opened up. So, you know, just in short, so everyone understands, before Christmas, the margin just on steers was 4% annualized. Now it's 24% annualized. And you're selling for about $600 to $800 less, but you're paying a lot less. And so I suppose I give that not from an agricultural perspective so much as sometimes when you're trading margins, the prices drop and the margins open up, and as confidence changes. So certainly agriculture, Australia's in a good position just simply because of our resources boom. They're saying China might drop back, but we're just like everybody else, we're lacking labor. And it's interesting listening to some of the younger farmers that I work with. They're whinging about 6% interest rates, and I'm like, you want to try 26%? And so, you know, because we've been there back in the 80s, and so in the area I work in, it's just money for jam. Agriculture is going from strength to strength, certainly in the livestock industry, certainly in cropping. Inflation's about 30% for inputs in a cropping business with chemicals and fertilizers, but because I work with livestock producers, they don't have a lot of inputs, and they have lots of outputs.
There you go. Wish you could have heard Robin's update from Zimbabwe. It's like Mars and bloody, you know, Venus. Like they're like two different planets. Like
I know.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a couple of clients over in South Africa, and yeah, they use my strategies, but it's talking to them. It's a whole lot different, harder.
Derek, I don't know if you want to give your thoughts on kind of the market. We've gone from a Zim farmer to an Australian farmer to a South African farmer.
Yeah, well, things aren't looking too great in South Africa at the moment on the agricultural front, and directly attributed, of course, to the lack of power. There's just no electricity to be had, and I was chatting to one of the farmers on the Orange River scheme on the irrigation, and there's not enough to do normal line maintenance and so on. So they sit with sometimes up to 2 days without electricity. The crops are at critical growth stages now, where they should pollinate and form grain. And basically, if it doesn't rain, you know, the only relief that's on the horizon now is a decent rain system. And if it doesn't rain the weekend, he's telling me 30% of the Orange River scheme's crops will be destroyed. So we're looking at pretty serious food inflation risks. Besides this food inflation risks, if you take the milling industry, milling maize meal, the staple in the country, if they don't have power, we're probably down to at stage 6, we're probably down to as low as 50% of milling capacity. So we might sit with adequate food supplies in the country, but they can't process it. And so I think it's a very real risk that we are facing. The flip side of the coin, yeah, on our farm on Silverton, we've got the crops in, they're growing. It is very hot and dry at the moment. However, the subsoil moistures are good. The crops are doing really well. So it is looking great. It's not all doom and gloom, but I think we're in for a rough ride. Just, you know, and most of it's attributed to the demise of our infrastructure and energy supply. What the effect is going to be as far as the financial markets and that's concerned is difficult to say. You know, agriculture has contributed massively in the last 2 years. Has come out of agriculture. We've enjoyed like 20% growth in the last 2 years. But you know, that's not necessarily on the cards for the year to come. So difficult, not you, and forge ahead. Thanks, Scott.
Awesome. Thanks, Derek. I'm just gonna shout out, if you don't want to go, fine, but Shane, you the next along the line. Any inputs that you got on the economy? Not so much that just general, like if you got any pros, cons.
Yeah, not really. I am scared, hearing everything that's going on. But I think this is time to look for opportunity. So I'm a little bit excited as well. So just looking for different sort of, you know, look out of your normal scope. That's what I'm going to start looking at.
Awesome. Kim.
Yeah, further to what Hannah said, I don't think that the US can continue to print money endlessly. And somewhere along the line, something has to change. So I assume that China will take the lead in time to come. So maybe the US dollar is no longer going to be the gold standard in the future. But you know, it's beyond my realms of understanding. It's just what I've read.
Thank you. Wilco, did you go? Sorry, I can't remember. I don't think so, but I just want to double check. Or did I catch you running off to the toilet? Maybe Kerry, if you want to give it a shot, or I can at least see you there. Oh, there you are.
Something that's on our mind is actually the water quality, because we're in KZN, and we've physically seen it with our own eyes. You know, we enjoy stand-up paddling. We used to go to Ananda Dam, which is 20 minutes away from us. But due to lack of maintenance that's happening down there with the company that's running the place, they've let the hyacinth grow. So it's full of hyacinth and cabbage, as they call it. So the local community and some local companies within the community put up a boom, but the locals down there cut the boom. So when you try and improve it, it kind of went backwards. And so we also stopped down in Durban along the beaches, and we went down on Sunday, and the amount of litter that was floating around in the sea was absolutely horrible. So obviously that's being fed in by it's illegal dumping, but also with all load shedding going on, it's the infrastructure just isn't there. There's so many, and after the April floods as well. And the water quality here it's shocking. You know, you saw dead fish floating around, and that's scary. And that makes you think, without water, there's absolutely nothing. All life depends on that. So yeah, that's quite something for us. And we can see companies and charities like the Litter Boom Project are putting up booms across rivers to capture all the plastic before it hits the oceans, and that, which is amazing, doing really well. But something really does need to be done on a much larger scale. So that's pretty much for us. And then listening to all the comments, you can see the food prices in the stores already. It's going up. And it's like I was saying to Carrie yesterday, is it that we are becoming more aware of the problems, or are these problems actually getting worse? So yeah, but then that's looking at, it's not being negative, it's just looking at the facts and how do you work around those facts, and what can you do as an individual to actually improve things that, and there's a hell of a lot that needs to be improved. And then on the flip side, it's also looking for the opportunities. It is scary. It's where do you actually go? Where do you put your money now? If you've got any, you know. So it's with everything. It's globally. It's actually quite scary. People are coming to me, Kerry, where are you putting your money? What do you advise? It's like, yeah, I don't right now. I'm doing a wait and see approach because I actually honestly don't know. So it's great that I'm part of this because. Together, I'm sure maybe we'll come up with something.
Well, on that note, I'm going to just finish with everyone, but I actually wrote down, where do you put your money? Quite scary. And I thought it was a good interlude into the next section. So thanks, Kerry. Let me just check quickly. I think you guys are going to Dana, I know you've got load shedding. Sorry, and Vilka as well. I missed you out as well. If you did you ever go? Sorry, I can't remember. I'm just trying to.
I had to go.
Okay, cool. Yeah. It's just you were one of the first. Yeah, that's right. So Dinah, I don't know if you can or can't, or if you want to. I know you said you got load shedding. Just by the way, you're good.
I'll keep my video off so that I can have better bandwidth so that you guys can hear me at least. On my side, I'm just scared of what's coming because, as everybody has alluded, that you know the US and the money problems and all the food prices that's going up, it just scares me, and I'm glad I'm part of this team so that I can find out what to do next because yeah, I normally have a tendency to actually get so scared that I end up doing nothing instead of looking for opportunities and things like that and actioning those opportunities. So I'm glad I'm part of this team.
Awesome. Well, you know, Dana, thank you. I'll send you the $50 afterwards because that's a perfect interlude into the next section. But no, because on a serious note, that's exactly what I was thinking earlier this year, and I've had a conversation at Christmas time with Garth Wellman from Calio. I actually, my very first day back last Monday, the very first person I spoke to was Garth Wellman. And then on Tuesday, I spoke to his chairman, who I've never spoken to before. I've never met him. Well, let me rephrase that. I've never had the privilege of meeting his chairman. And they had an asset management firm that they sold to Investec, and he's subsequently been on the board of Investec for many, many years. Like I'm talking like 15 years type thing. And Garth finally opened the door. I don't know how to say that any other way, because they've been quite impressed with the whole mastermind, and they're really quite excited about, you know, how can we take this to the next level. And you know, that's one of my bits of news today that I'm excited about to share, because, and I don't necessarily know what that all means, but the good news, back to Diana's comment and Kerry's comment, is that, you know, those people are getting the best information in the world to help the wealthiest people make the right decisions. And, you know, whether the times are good or the times are bad, that's what they're doing. Like, does that make sense? You know, and the good news is they committed to us to help us achieve the same results. And that for me is materially important, because if you watched any of the videos I did over Christmas, you know, if I know one thing from 2008, 2009, it's not necessarily the action you take that's important. What's important is two things. Okay, and I want to share my screen quickly. The first thing is the mindset that you find yourself in. Okay, so you've all seen this lots of times, but, you know, and again, I was probably, you know, too young for it to really materially affect me in kind of late 98. You know, in South Africa, interest rates went to 25%, and, you know, people got themselves in a lot of trouble. I was still at university. 2001, you know, I was an employee, so, you know, I had a house, but it wasn't really like a major thing to me. Actually, no, I lied. I only got my first house in 2000. No, I got my first one in 99. And but it was really 2008, 2009 that, like, you know, really woke me up. And what I experienced in that time was, and one of you said it, and I apologize, I can't remember who it was, psychological recession. Was that you, Vilka? One of you had that insight. You said in America, it's going to be a psychological recession. And I think what I learned in 2008, 2009 was what was incredible is the mind shift that people had. Like it was phenomenal. Okay. And for me personally to even witness. And I think one of the powers of being in a mastermind is that we can sit in this state and we can sit in fear. And really that's the key to the word, or we can work with the right type of people and we can feed off each other's energies and we can be in a towards state. And then to your point, Shane, is that the greatest investors in the world actually know that in crisis, there's opportunity. Does that make sense? Like most people would say to you that, you can actually make really good money in bad times. But it brings me to my second point, which is where you've got to have the right information. Like, you can't, it's not the stuff that you're picking up in the newspapers or stuff that you're picking up on the media, because that's always sensational and it kind of feeds this fear state that the media want. So what's really important and absolutely critical is that we not only are conscious of our state, and again, as a group, we want to hold a state, but as an individual, we all have accountability to hold our own state. So that's the first thing. And it's just a reminder as we go into this year. And the second thing that's really important is that, and I know again that I've shown you this 100 times, but repetition's the mother of skill, is that, if you find yourself getting caught in problems and drama, the very first thing to do is to go, okay, what were my outcomes? What were the outcomes that I set myself at the back end of last year? And by the way, I'll talk about it a little bit later. Trust me, I've gone through my own fair share of drama in the last 3 months. And what did I do over the Christmas period? Like psychologically, you go, okay, what's the outcome I want to achieve? Like, let's not get caught in this stuff. Let's go, what's the outcome you want to achieve? And then you work kind of backwards down the scale. So it's a little bit of a kind of an intro for the year, if you want to call it that. And I wanted to kind of get perspective on where people were at, but also to remind you that, again, I'm going to keep repeating this, psychologically, that's why we have this middle session in the month. Like, remember, I always talk about the dual energies. This middle session is mainly around psychology, mindset, and execution. Because if we don't have our minds right, we won't achieve anything. Does that make sense? And then at the end of the month, that's the whole idea with the likes of the Calios and et cetera, to be able to help us make the right investment decisions. Does that make sense? Any questions? Any questions around that? Okay, so what I suggest we do is let's rock and roll. I just wanted to remind everyone, and I have asked Shane to help me try and figure this out, but this Google sheet that I shared again on the group, my recommendation is, save it somewhere. Like, as an example, you can literally go in here and you can save it as, a drop down so that you've got it. And again, it's just, I'm just showing you an example, but you've got everything in here. And I made a commitment to before Christmas that I would, give you the entire year. So you can see that the entire year, this is the morning session, this is the afternoon session. The entire year is here. Every single day in the year, it's always aimed at the middle Wednesday of the month. And the only one just to be aware of is that in September, this is not a spelling mistake. It is the 5th of September, because I'm due to go to France to watch the Rugby World Cup. And with all due respect, I don't want to be trying to run a mastermind in bad reception and whatever. So just for everyone's planning, you should be able to plan literally right through to 2024, if that makes sense. Like, so, and again, Shane, hopefully we can find a way to actually put this in people's calendars, but my invitation to you is put it in your own calendar as well. And hopefully for everyone, I've tried to do the different time zones. Again, I have made the effort to try and even look when, what's the word called? Clocks go back. But just if you particularly, like if you're in Australia or something, please just double check just make sure, your clocks better than I do. Does that make sense in all the different regions? You with me? Yeah. Okay. So, and then just in terms of the CIO updates, I need to just confirm the times and the dates with those. Obviously I couldn't, I'm still working on that in terms of getting that sorted. So what I want to do now is, just from a timing perspective, is that we just run through each of us And just a quick check-in of the last sort of month, reminding you of the rhythm. And again, if I go back to the sort of agenda as to how we run it, is that there's a check-in each month from each member, which is really our accountability. So remember, as I said to you, it's psychology, it's execution, and then the most important thing about execution is accountability. Then we'll run through the one main theme for the month, which this month is flow. Then we'll talk about any stuff. As an example, I want to talk about where we're at with Wealth Migrate and the platform. There's a session for hot seats if anyone wants to do a hot seat. And then finally we close out. Okay, so just reminding you of the rhythm. So in terms of that check-in, let's review December 2022 in terms of the last month. And I'm going to bring up the screen here. I'll go first, again, just to kind of mirror it for everyone. So effectively to start, if I look at December and I kind of go to my accountability, reminding you that, by the time you hopefully go to sleep tonight, or certainly by sort of Friday, my expectation would be that you go to January and you put in what your key actions are. Okay, it's something to hold you to account. So my 3 things that I put down in December were to have a holiday. It's in green. I've achieved that. To review my outcomes and what I really want. The reason it's in orange is by this time of the year, I'm normally done, but there's a couple of things up in the air that I'm still waiting for. I'll explain it later, but with Wealth Migrate, there's like a mandate, etc. So a couple of things that I'm just trying to get the pieces in place, but it's in progress. And then have a plan for Wealth Migrate, same thing. It's in progress in terms of that. Then if I look at the review and the highlights, for me, back to that state thing, it's really interesting because I found myself in late December, just before Christmas, in a real state of fight or flight. Really, you'll actually now in hindsight realize that you're not even thinking clearly. And it was interesting for me, by having a 2-week break, it really allowed me the time to kind of step out of the drama, if you want to call it that, and to review the big picture and to go back to what outcomes I wanted to achieve and just let your body kind of rest. And I actually realized that with the lessons that I did a video called the 22 lessons, which was a reflection on the year of 2022. If you haven't seen it, I'll happily share it with you. You don't have to watch it if you don't want. I have had quite a lot of positive feedback around it. So, if you want me to share it on the groups, I think I did share it anyway, but if you want me to share it, let me know. It might be of use to you or not. The second thing for me was, I was quite overwhelmed actually, again, when you kind of coming out of kind of drama of December, and then you have a holiday, and my very first meeting was with Garth from Calio. And he couldn't have been more positive about where the world's going, the partnership between ourselves and themselves, and the big picture of what they want to achieve and how much synchronicity there is. And it just reminded me that, sometimes you don't think you're doing the right thing, and actually, others have to validate it for you. And then, funny enough, the guy from Gifts, which is an investment bank, I haven't been able to really speak to the guy. He lives in Durban. Kerry, it'd be easier for you to go and see him, because even when I'm in Durban, he bloody blows you off and meets you at the airport, and then he's late, and this type of stuff. And out of the blue on Wednesday, he phones me up and he says, I watched your 2022 video, the lessons video, and it really resonated with me, and it speaks to my purpose, and we need to do business together. I've been trying to do business for 18 months. And he's like, we need to talk. And I'm like, okay, well, how are we going to talk? And he goes, I'm in Knysna on holiday. I'm like, really? So I was like, come for a boat ride. And I ended up having 5 quality hours with the guy on my terms, as in he couldn't rush off anywhere. And it was just an incredible conversation. And again, reminded me of the power of being around like-minded people. If you find yourself in a situation where you're fighting with people and then you're not like-minded, you're just wasting your energy. And again, we're going to talk about flow just now. And then thirdly, for me, a highlight was Shane actually came down to Knysna. What was it, Shane? Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I went home on Sunday. And we spent 3 power days working on the Wealth University. What are we going to do? What are we focusing on? What, our annual plan, which was a highlight for me in terms of that process. In terms of the challenge, back to Wealth Migrate and what's the future and where we're going and how do we optimize it, etc. So for me, in terms of the platform, etc., that's been over the Christmas period was a lot of worrying and analyzing, although I think the pieces of the puzzle are coming together now. I already explained to those of you on earlier, selling the family home. Although that was a huge high in terms of profit, it was a huge low in terms of emotion, and particularly my son being particularly sad around losing the family home. And then the third one is a challenge, which I kind of, in 2022, I completely lost, was being, having the autonomy. And if you remember what Faisal said, oh, and by the way, remind me to tell you that Shane and I also met with Faisal, which was really interesting. But Faisal said, the number one thing that people need to have a happy life is autonomy. And, one of my real goals this year is to get back my autonomy and to, be in control of my destiny. So that was a challenge for me. And in terms of questions, I don't have any questions for myself. So, yeah, I don't know if anyone wants to go. I probably gave too much detail, but I just kind of wanted to give perspective from my side as well. So I don't know if anyone else wants to give it a go. Again, let's just do it popcorn style.
Can I go, please?
Okay, Diana.
Okay. For me, the action steps for last year, December, was to declutter my laptop and my subscriptions. And then the second one was to actually do my 90-day one thing plan. For the decluttering, it's in progress. I didn't know I had so many subscriptions that I had to go through. I think I've sorted out just about 10 out of like 50. Then because of the subscriptions and things like that, it's also impacting my 90-day plan. When it comes to the highlights, I'm glad I had time out so that I could spend quality time with my mom. I worked on spreadsheet assignments, 1 or 2 occasions. And then there was a book that I had on loan from somebody, The Extreme Ownership. I eventually got it down and got it completed. The challenge I had was I opted to finish all 3 books. But then a book that I started in June was one of the books on the list. I didn't complete it because what I did was I said I'll do, before I proceed to the next chapter, I'll do the exercises. The exercise is actually quite draining, and most of it is like emotional, so it takes me longer to get through the book. And then one of my questions was just, if the reserve currency basically changed, how will it affect our investments in Wealth Migrate? And how quickly will the reserve currency adoption happen within the system?
So perfect. Thanks, Diana. And it made me laugh when you were talking about reading a book. I'm sure no one else is like me and takes 3 books on holiday in your bag and you fly to somewhere and then you don't open like 1 page. Like I always, whenever I pack, I assume I'm going to read 3 books. And when I get there, I don't even read 1 page. So I always wonder why I don't even just bother taking 1 book, Anyway, but listen, just on the reserve currency, I'll try and answer that quickly. So for me, the best way to answer this question is Ray Dalio. And funny enough, I've just ordered his latest book. It literally arrived a week or 2 ago, and I haven't read it yet, so I'm not going to talk about it. But for me, what I love about it is he talks a lot about the reserve currency, the impact of the reserve currency. It's no doubt that the American dollar will change as the reserve currency, and he's got all the predictions and market analysis as to why this is going to happen. Maybe a good starting point for you, if you're interested, and for everyone else, is I did a webinar, at least 1.5 years ago, where I did a synopsis of all 3 of his books, because I've read all of them, etc. It's about an 1.5 hour webinar, and it talks about the long-term debt cycle. It talks about macroeconomics. It talks about risk. It talks about short-term debt, and he refers specifically to the reserve currency. And sort of the timing and how it's worked in the past, and the way he always talks is, if we look backwards, we can predict the future in terms of that process. So my invitation to you is maybe that would be, if you haven't done that stuff, it might be a good place to start. I've learned more from Ray Dalio than I've learned from anyone else in certainly the last 5, if not 10 years, in terms of macroeconomics. And obviously the reserve currency is specifically related to that. So I can, try and find that, or it's on YouTube. It'll be on my YouTube channel. If you don't have it, or if you want it, maybe just ping me on the diversification group and remind me. And the second comment I would have around wealth migrate investments is that, obviously it is something to take into account around the US dollar and the impact of the dollar. And that's one of the reasons why we bring in the likes of James Painter in terms of looking at different currencies, etc. One of the things that I've been trying to work with Calio on for years is that they do quite a lot of investing in Europe. And I would love to have income producing commercial real estate in Europe. I mean, honestly, and we haven't been able to find it. And that's why they're doing it. And it's one of the reasons I've been hacking them for years as to how can we get involved in your deals. Because my gut feel, and just my opinion, I'm not giving you financial advice, but again, if we're all exposed in dollars, that equally is as bad as being exposed in Rand or in Aussie dollars. You want to be diversified. What impact it'll have in terms of the reserve currency? Well, again, back to Ray Dalio, like that's quite a big conversation. But the number one thing that he says over and over again is diversification. And he should probably be our, what's it called, where you have like a little poster boy for this mastermind. Sorry, it's a long answer, Diana, but it's twofold basically is what I'm saying. The first one is I would start with Ray Dalio, and the second one is in terms of investing, it's primarily around diversification because it's who knows what the next reserve currency will be. Even it won't be the euro either. I don't know. Hello, you guys there?
Thank you, Scott.
I was just checking random frozen. Okay, Dana. Thank you. Who's up?
Yeah, I can go on behalf of Rob.
Cool. Is it filled in or not, Robin? Yep,
I did fill in for January, but if we look back to December, create bulletproof systems. Rob's in the process of doing that. But the next point down, trying to find the one thing. So he's finding himself in an extremely toxic and challenging situation. Toxic in that his younger brother by 8 years is now his boss. And his younger brother's wife is very controlling and incredibly interfering to the point that she's not even allowing Rob to come to their house. So it's made it very difficult. But at the same time, these challenges are quite good ones because these are challenges that have to be overcome. They have to be dealt with. They have to be faced. And they present themselves, challenges always present opportunity. So he's working on that at the moment. The other biggest challenge that he's having, which I put sort of in the January section, is that he's working for a company now where there's no general direction. This is a chap who's bought up a whole lot of farms, but he's not given the GM, who's Rob's brother, any direction nor finances. So it's very, very difficult to be productive, motivated, and to know where you're going if you're not getting that direction from the top down. But having said that, these are challenges, and the one thing I've learned and what he's learned is the grass is never greener on the other side. It depends how much water you actually put on the grass, and you've got to water the grass yourself. So it actually boils down to mindset. And I think no matter where you are in the world, or no matter what you're doing, you found that out yourself, Scott, this last year, you're going to have challenges, you're going to have difficulties. And these things are there for us to seize as opportunities and to get our mindsets right and to find the peace within oneself. And so I think, Rob's working on that. I'm certainly working on that, is just finding success in yourself and peace and happiness, no matter where you are, no matter what the challenge is.
Okay.
As far as questions go, and you asked what courses people would like, I think this stage Rob needs direction in how to deal, like I say, with a controlling sister-in-law, how to deal working for your younger brother. It's how, when you're at the bottom of a company, you're the new boy on the block, how do you get heard without coming across as arrogant, without stepping on toes?
So I spoke actually about this I'll put in the chat for you. But this is probably the best thing I've found around team and how to build, what is a dysfunctional team and what is a good team. So what you do, and there's a whole way to do this, and there's even a test. I take the team assessment now. And so, again, I just my opinion, but if I was in his situation, over here, like how would I bring new management to the company without being seen as pushy? How to be heard in big corporate from the bottom? How to deal? Okay, that might be above my pay grade. That's where we need like Faisal or someone. I'm sorry, but yeah, that one is walking on eggshells. There's the book, because that's what I learned with my ex-wife. But anyway, and how to be more assertive without stepping on toes. Like, for me, there's quite a lot of sort of leadership around that. But, I would probably answer it in two different ways. The first one is that around team, okay, and this could be valuable for any of you, and I put it in the chat box. But I mean, this, if you haven't read this book, it's probably one of the best books I've read. Or you don't even have to read the book; you can actually just go to this website. And how to build a great team. It starts with trust, then actually being able to have conflict. Funny enough, like the problem is good teams have conflict. They can fight, and then it's a commitment to each other. Then it's accountability, and finally results. The irony is most people want results, but they don't do the 4 below, and then they don't get the results. Does that make sense? And and that's why it talks about the dysfunction, because generally it starts with an absence of trust, a fear of conflict, which is what I'm hearing. I'm at the bottom, I can't, talk, whatever. It's a lack of, etc. And you kind of get the thing, and then basically you don't get to the results. So that would be my first comment, and it's a very valuable exercise for any of you that are in a team. And then the second thing I would say is I just pull up my coaching slides, is probably taking them through an exercise similar to kind of, like a coaching exercise, because, when you're at the bottom, etc., it's not about telling them what to do. It's about asking good questions to achieve the outcome you want to achieve. And again, it all starts with getting clear on what the outcome is and then working backwards. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So again, in my younger years, I would, if I was in Rob's situation, I would tell everyone what they needed to do, and it doesn't work. So that's where the coaching comes in, and it makes like they part of the equation. Remember, they'll be 5 times more committed, but it all comes back to the outcome. Derek, I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, Scott. I've got a crisis that I need to deal with. So would it be okay if I join this afternoon session? Because I really don't, I don't want to do this, but unfortunately, I've just got to, I've got to do it.
No, all good. It's all good. It's perfect. We'll see you later. It's perfect. No
I'll
problem.
join you this
I'll
afternoon.
try and say the exact same words for you so that you don't have to have repeat.
No, that's cool. Good luck, everybody. I was on late. Just compliments of the season and all the best, and for this group that I won't see this afternoon. And yeah, look forward to taking it by the horns. And like I said, my sentence for the year is get it done. So there we go.
Awesome. Okay, dude, we'll get your crisis done. Cheers, man. So Robin, just in terms of those questions, hopefully those two kind of help in terms of the psychology, but yeah, the overwhelming thing for me for Rob, okay, so that he can be in control of his destiny, is what's the outcome he's trying to achieve.
Yeah, 100%.
Can I just add something?
Yep, go on.
There. Yeah, so there's a fellow called Alan Parker who we've done a bit of work with in Australia and helped us a lot with a pretty tough negotiation. But his whole thing is focus on what you agree on, because we tend to focus on what we disagree on. And by focusing on what are the things we agree on, then we can start to get some rapport on that, whereas we tend to go to the disagreements and we can't get anywhere with either.
I love that. That's brilliant, Graham. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, I'll put that link in. I'm just going to drop links in the WhatsApp group so that you've got them with just the 5 dysfunctions. Cool, Robin. Thank you. Who's up next?
Let me try to get in now. I had a switch over due to load shedding, so thank you, load shedding.
Okay, how do where you find you quickly? There you are. Let me go
Yeah,
to
I actually discovered Chat GPT, and I made use of that to generate all my blog articles for the whole year in advance. Obviously, you can't use it just as is. Google can pick up on AI, but at least having content to put out via social media, via video, via whatever means you think to use, at least it's much easier if the content is at least partially generated already.
Just quickly for and again, I'm not going to assume everyone knows exactly what you're talking about. Give them the 30-second précis of this chatbot because and AI. And I tell you what, all my mates on my university group are going crazy about this. Like, but just give them the 1-minute version of what you're talking about.
Okay, so ChatGPT is basically a new chatbot that was launched in November by OpenAI. They already picked up a $10 billion investment from Microsoft, and they want to put in, Microsoft even wants to put in some more. So it seems like there is quite a craze for it in the technological sector at the moment. But basically it is a large language model that can type, it's only text-based, so but it can correspond as if it's human. So what I did, for example, was I put in generate a blog article on whatever the topic might be, and then it generated a whole blog article that I can then use. Some people use it to write computer code, and unfortunately, due to that, you also get the guys that write malware using this chatbot. There's even people that write their doctoral thesis using this chatbot, or at least in the outline for their doctoral thesis using this chatbot. So it is quite a powerful AI system at the moment. And as I say, it makes compiling content very easy at this point in time, because a lot of people, myself as well, is always like, I know I need to put out content, but where am I going to get the content? Where am I going to get the time? How am I going to get around to doing it? Now with this, over the weekend, I generated 62 blog articles, and I'm using this week now, working from home, to just do the basic editing. And then once I've submitted that and preloaded that, then it can basically run on its own for the whole year. And then I can actually, for the rest of the year, focus on doing business.
Wow.
Yeah, that's, yeah. So it's quite a scary program for universities and the like. But in marketing sense, I love it. So that was the one absolute highlight for me.
You've put a rocket up my proverbial you-know-what, because this has been one of those things on my to-do list. I have to check this out, but I actually haven't done it. So.
Okay. So then the other highlight for me was I actually missed the November session because I was in the States at a business conference. And I met a couple of high-profile individuals there. And then last week I actually had an Zoom interview with Bruce Buffer for marketing purposes, which I'm also then editing the video to use in social media and the like. That was my other highlight at this point in time, that I think was quite nice to have. So yeah, that was my highlights with regards to my challenges. Time management. I can't repeat that enough. There's so much I need to do that if I'm not using stuff like ChatGPT and breaking my stuff into blocks and dealing with it in a block-wise fashion, then I'm simply going to fall behind with all the stuff that I'm busy dealing with. And then raising funds for the building due to the current economic circumstances, the funds raising is a bit difficult. But luckily, in the same vein, with funds being difficult, it's not just for myself being difficult, it's for everybody being difficult. And as such, they said, listen, we keep it on the market when you get your stuff sorted. It's not a closed offer for you, but if you can get your stuff sorted, the building is still available. So I'm still dealing with that.
Just a quick one. Have you read the summary version of The One Thing?
No.
Did you get it?
Can't say that I have. I've not been overly active during December and the like.
So do me a favor, just so that I don't have to put it up for everyone else. Go back on the group to November. It was the session you missed. And the session in November was about time management. And
okay.
The book that's made the most impact to me is a book called The One Thing. And I shared a pricey version of The One Thing. If what The One Thing is your thing, I would maybe go and get the recording of that session, and don't listen to all the talking from all the rest of us, but do the, probably 20, 30 minutes where I talk about The One Thing. Because I think it'll be very valuable for you. And if you just listen to the recording for 30 minutes, plus you read that pricey version, which is only 10 pages long. And if you tell me you don't have the time to do it, then let's not complain about time management.
No. I'll definitely go get it.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm writing that here.
That's fine.
One thing review. Okay. Who's up?
I'm happy to go. I haven't written anything in the sheet, but I'm happy to go.
I'll stop sharing so we can see each other.
Yep. Something that I won't be doing next year, my wife's reinforced that, is taking work in December and January, because I really haven't had a break. And I've learned that I'm part of the sandwich generation, and sandwich generation is we're looking after our parents and our folks, getting my folks and old people's home into care, and so part of what was called a holiday was getting my parents' house done and sorted and actually ready for sale, and we had an offer tonight which they're going to accept, so it's kind of been worth it. But you don't realize how much focus it takes looking after your parents and those I suppose decision-making things, and then also working with the younger generation, your kids. And anyway, reflecting back, I listened to The One Thing, and I've just started listening to it again on Audible, and I've also talked about it with my own clients, so that really helps me tease it out. And I guess that really got me focused on learning to say no this year. That's kind of a bit of a theme. It's very easy for me to say yes and take more. When I reflect back on my golden goals, one of my golden goals was to just the background. I became the lead trainer because my business partner passed away 18 months ago, and so I needed to bring someone in the business as a second trainer, and that's done, sorted. We sorted out the remuneration program with remuneration, which is very, very generous. It's 20% of the profit share plus a wage. So that person's going to be teaching with me in the next program, and then I got another guy I'm talking to later tonight. So I'm well on the way, and I think the thing that really I'm really happy about is I'm not thinking too far ahead of myself. I'm just letting things evolve. And I've said to both of them, hey, if we get to the end of the next couple of months and you say to me, you know what, this is not for me, I'm happy, doesn't matter. Or I want to do more, or I want to do something. So I'm not setting things up to be too big, and but I am pleased that I'm well on the way to getting those golden goals going, except, you know, I'd like to work a lot more on the investment. So I guess they're my successes. The challenge has been, I've got, and it still is, I've got too many pots on the fire, and trying to work out which ones to take off. And I think the other thing I've learned is my best investment right now is me. I'm the best asset, and creating cash flow out of what I do. But I also am aware that if I become a machine, I'll break down. So I want to become back to a human being.
Awesome, Graham. Just a friendly accountability for everyone. You know, the Google Sheet, use it, don't use it. I'm not your tutor. I'm not going to shit on you type thing. But from my experience, to taking the time to writing it down, and again, I'm talking when I was a mastermind attendee with Roger and the likes, I find it very valuable to sit just the night before you come here, and it makes you really reflect on your last month, which keeps it quite real, quite tangible, you know, like it's because you got to think it through, and it kind of holds you to account. And equally, I find it quite hard, and I speak for myself here, where I go look at my, again, I'm going to call it the robot here. So if you go back to my thing here, if I go back to December, and the robot, like, you know, if I've taken the time straight after the last mastermind to actually write it, you know, and then I come back and review it, and, you know, it kind of holds me to account. And really, these things should be kind of the top 3 things that are moving you towards your kind of golden goals, you know, like mine are Wealth Migrate, the university, and Blue Level Thinking, you know, in terms of the overall process. And anyway, so it's just an invitation. Use it, don't use it. You know, I'm just trying to provide the tools to help you get there, if that makes sense. So anyway, it's for everyone in terms of that process. It just, again, I find that by running the process, it'll help you measurably move forward. Because the only problem I'll have, Graham, and more importantly, you'll have, is in a month's time, we won't remember what you said you were going to do. None of us will. You can't even remember it for yourself, let alone for someone else. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I get that, and that's a consequence of, you know, me driving tonight and going, hell, there's a motel, I need Wi-Fi, I got to get on this call. So that's why I need to create the space so I can do that.
Yeah, look, my only again, it's just my own life lesson, is that with Roger, because trust me, we're all very busy, I get it. And my only commitment with Roger is, you know, I always would sit just the night before, even if it was like flipping midnight. It doesn't take long, it takes 10 to 15 minutes. You just review the month, write it down, just make sure you update it. And then the only other commitment you need to make is before, you know, it doesn't have to be tonight, but like in the next day or two, just say, right, what is my goal for the next month? You know, just write it literally. So, you know, it's probably 20 minutes in total, tops. But I just find it, by writing it down, you're going to hold yourself to account better. If that makes sense. Awesome. And by the way, I wasn't only talking to Graham because he's not the only one who doesn't have stuff written on the Google Sheet. So it's definitely not a one-person conversation. Yeah. Okay, let's rock and roll. Who's up?
I'll go.
Cool.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
There we go. Yeah. So from my side, yeah, last year ended with quite a busy period in my life, and so I took a break, and then we had family over from South Africa, as I already said earlier. But like I think, like with Graham, I'm part of that sandwich generation, as he calls it, and same story. So we now have to figure out what are we going to do with my parents and my parents-in-law in South Africa. Because just on a side note, one of my colleagues is also ex-South African. He actually had to fly back to South Africa on Monday because his father had a stroke over the weekend. And those types of things are crazy if you don't have things in place. His mother can't even access their bank accounts and things like that. So not nice if you're like in your 80s or 90s and the basics of life you can't even do. So anyway, so although it was a highlight for them being here, we realized that we need to look after, after their situation. Luckily, they're open-minded about it, so that's all good. So that's one of the highlights. The second one was the World of Wealth webinars that started on Monday evening. That is very, very interesting. What I love about Anne's approach is her systemized way of doing it. She, I've done a lot of different courses like that, and everybody sort of seems to touch on one element, and maybe you get sort of confused along the way about how to do things. She's got a very clear and very proper way of taking you step by step through a process, and I find that most of her sort of fundamental things are principles are in place in terms of I think the way she looks at investments and what your targets and goals should be and things like that. She's got very good arguments for that. So I can tell anybody that's on this call, please do yourself a favor and join those webinars. It might look like it's basic stuff, and to some degree it is, but it's really, really interesting. So I think that's a highlight for me. Then in terms of some challenges, time management. So I've gone through the one thing again, and I will do it again. But at the moment, at work, there's quite a big tender and projects and things coming down. So it sort of feels like a little bit overwhelmed at the moment, trying to make head and shoulders just to understand what the hell they want us to do. So that's quite complicated, but and that takes up a lot of time, even after hours, to try and get that sorted, because we only got like 3 months to to get that tender out of the door. Complex tender, but in any case, so I need to focus, and I will focus on the one thing again there. And the one thing should be me. What I've realized out of, just to link it to the webinars from Anne, one massive realization that I had there again is that the whole concept of earned income won't set you free. That's it. You don't earn your way to wealth. That's the end of the story. You can think you will, but it's now been shown in so many. It's a clear message to me from the last year that you won't earn your way to wealth, and that's an old wives' tale that they've been telling us. So I need to get over that. I need to manage the sales of my properties in South Africa as well. I've been having some issues there with the guys that's renting it, or that's given up the rent rather, I should say. And then, like I said, help my family with their situation in South Africa. And I think the one question I had for you, Scott, there is that we had a previous scheduled meeting to review that property, but that was postponed. So I don't know if we can reset that and set a new date.
Yeah, perfect. Look, I just saw that. Sorry, I completely slipped my mind. So if you wouldn't mind just messaging me, let's just find a time that suits both of us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, perfect.
Apologies.
No worries.
in the mess of December, that
no, it's all good.
Awesome. Okay, great. Who's up?
Yeah, I'll go. Did you hear that?
Yeah, we got you, Kim. I'm just checking. Yep.
Let's hope I've filled in everything.
Yep, I'm just pulling it up for you. We've gone. There we are. Okay.
Are we now looking at January here, hey?
Yeah.
Okay, my eyesight's not great. I'm just going to try and make this bigger.
I can make it a bit bigger if you want me to.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me just. Is that better?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, with this current problem with my eye, I spent some time in ACU, so I haven't had a great time during December. Anyway, I've had 3 objectives in mind, and the first one was to try and stand back from the businesses. It's just too much, and that's probably why I'm experiencing health issues. So I've now interviewed a further staff member, and he will start in February, which will again assist me to get on a sort of less hands-on approach. Having looked at my 3 objectives, the digital marketing is quite bad in terms of my shops. But before I even start that, the signage outside some of the shops are not great. And I have some challenges with the shopping center management in order to get what I want. So I'm waiting on that, in fact, on them. And hopefully with budget, I can manage to get that all done. And then I will have some professional photographs taken so that I can improve my Google presence. That really is my big issue. It really, the Google presence is terrible. The other objective was to try and implement a swallow type lifestyle. In other words, try and have some base in Europe and looking at Plet. I went down to Plet in early December. There's a hell of a shortage of property there. So they are very, very expensive now. So I've also had a look at Spain and Portugal. I'm going out to Spain in June, and I'm planning a Portugal trip as soon as I can. I've also had a look at the different visa options, you know, ensuring that there's no negative tax effect on me, depending on what I decide to do. And then the third option was I need to invest on a more optimal basis rather than all over the show as I'm doing right now. So I need to make an appointment with Garth Wellman, which I'm not sure how to do. Do I go through Wealth Migrate or do I go directly? And then with regard to the money management, I'm still refurbishing the one property that's vacant so that I can get it ready for sale. That's it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Just to answer your question, Kim, I'll set it up with Garth. Funny enough, we actually had well, we haven't had the meeting yet, but I've set Shane up with, what the hell's her name now? Courtney. Courtney works closely with Garth and has been the one that's been onboarding and talking to clients and managing it. And I actually, when I chatted with Garth last week, what we realized is, and again, let's own what we're good at and also own what we're not good at. But Garth and I are like 2 ships, like chaotic ships all over the place. Okay, like, and you know, one thing I said to Garth, I said, if we're going to do this professionally, it's got to run much more systematically, etc. And so when Shane was down last week, I said, look, I really think that we need to sit with Courtney. We need to have a whole booking system that, you know, so it's not me trying to WhatsApp you Courtney's address. And then I know Derek has gone, but like Derek, you know, etc. So our responsibility, I'm talking from our side and from Kelly's side, is to make that much more streamlined. But in the short term, you know, between Shane and I, we can set you up with Courtney and you know, Courtney is Garth together. Like, does that make sense? So we can get that going with you, basically. Okay. I don't know, Shane, if you read your meeting already, because they literally are trying to meet this week to systemize that.
Not yet, but we will sort it out this week.
Cool. Awesome. Excellent. Who's up?
We'll go, Scott. Okay, highlights. December, we've got a business called Christmas for You. And obviously being December and we saw Christmas decorations, that's our time. So we had a very successful month with that. And we attend markets and things, and it was good. People are coming back out again. You hear their problems and all the things that people have gone through since COVID and stuff. It opens your eyes because you hear people from all over the place that came. But we had a good Christmas. So that was great. And an opportunity from that has presented itself where we can now pivot into selling bespoke fridge magnets, because we also we created a surfing center, and one of the shops, Country Feeling in Jeffreys Bay, practically took all of our stock, and we had over 200 surfing centers, and they're the ones that now have come forward and saying, would we do bespoke fridge magnets for them? So we're looking into that, which was great. We managed to get some rest between Christmas and New Year, which was also a good thing because we've been running around like headless chickens. And we booked in our holidays for 2023. That's really important. So those were the highlights. The challenge is became very much being all things to all people for some reason, and I couldn't say no to lots of people. So a lot of people were offloading on me, and I was helping out with all sorts of things, to the point where I wanted to try and do something. I would put myself out, and I discovered that my stuff's backing up, but all their problems are being sorted out, which I don't mind. I enjoy helping people, but I do mind when it leaves me flat on the couch. And I really had no energy. I had no interest. I didn't want to know anyone's problems. So for about 10 days, I did absolutely nothing. It was useless, and I was less than useless. But it was through that time that I got clarity again. And I've now taken myself back again. We've written out what we want to achieve this year. So it actually was kind of a good thing that the universe decided to stop me. When I did try and get up, I went and did some gardening and creosoted the fence, and they messed my foot up, so I couldn't walk for 3 days. So they're back on the couch again. So I got the message that I had to stop and rethink, which is what we did. So yeah, so Kerry's back, and 2023, here we come.
Kerry, I thought I would share the book that I'm currently listening to. So I've got a huge amount of respect for Eddie Perino, which is this YouTube channel that I've spoken to guys about a number of times. I find his content amazing. And wait, hang on, that's Wealth Migrate. Let me just change it quickly. Just give me 2 seconds. What's it doing? Oh, come on. Sorry. What the hell's it doing? Yeah, this takes long. Anyway, the point is, I was on Eddie Perino's thing, and then he spoke about this book that had such a big impact on his life. And it's funny because, like, the opposite of well, effectively what I'm hearing is like people pleasing, which is, by the way, something I know very well. So, like, and obviously with the presentation of the shareholders and all this, I thought, oh well, this is the time. Like, we don't have to be liked by everyone, if that makes sense. And anyway, it's just a book that I'm actually halfway through and quite enjoying. Because it's interesting what you just said about, I think you said 9 days or whatever to yourself, even if other people don't like it,
Yeah, but it was also, it's not about being disliked. It's just I suddenly said to Carrie that for some reason I feel responsible to fix other people's problems. And it's like, why did I put that on me? And yeah, everyone was just coming, and I was trying to help everybody, which I've now stopped, because I will help people. I really will, because I'm all about that. But I'm going to just monitor myself at the same time.
Yeah, no, granted, and well done. I think it's awesome. All I was trying to point out is it feels like you and I are doing the same thing at the same time, is what I'm saying. So awesome. Cool. Who are we missing? Is anyone? Sorry, you guys don't jump in order, so I've had to keep track of who's gone. Is everyone gone? We sorted. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thanks for the updates. Right, I want to pivot. I'm conscious of time. So we're now going to go into the session of the value add. So I want to kind of share a story with you. And a couple of years ago, 7 years ago to be exact, I read an article on LinkedIn about the concept of flow. And I was really fascinated by the concept of flow, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. This guy must be stuck in Silicon Valley. And you talk about the synchronicity of the world. Like, I then looked at where he lived, and he lived in Knysna. Okay, now for those of you who don't live in South Africa, this is like, by Australian standards, some little town that only has like, a little holiday town, and you end up both living in this tiny little holiday town. And, he could have lived anywhere in the world, and we lived in the same town. So, I went for coffee, and I said, dude, you got to explain this more to me. It feels like it's the thing that I've been battling with so much in my life. And, I thought about it, and I thought, one of my greatest things that I want to achieve this year is flow. And I haven't been very good at it at all for many, many years. And well, I don't think I've ever achieved it, quite frankly, not consistently. And then I thought about, well, what's that got to do with wealth? Why is that with regards to diversification? And, this was my thinking process over Christmas. And it reminded me of my first kind of real understanding. And, I often joke with people, but, I've had the poor dad, rich uncle. And my uncle's so rich in so many ways, not just money. And this was a picture of him and my aunt in April. And I'm not sure if you've heard the story before. If you haven't, I'm just going to say it very quickly. But, he came out in April because his brother-in-law was sick. His brother-in-law needed a leg operation. He didn't have private health, and in South Africa, that's not a good thing. And so he flew out from Australia. He didn't have to ask his boss because he's completely, his own boss. He came for a month, but he could have come for as long as he needed. They picked the brother-in-law up in East London. They drove him down to Cape Town. My brother's a private anaesthetist in Cape Town. He got them in to see one of the top specialists in Cape Town. And the specialist said, look, we need to operate, but, I can't do it. The guy doesn't have medical aid. And to be honest, I can't give you a price. Like when you do an operation, he could end up in ICU for 6 months. And my uncle said, don't worry, it's covered. And for me, that epitomizes what wealth is about, where you can help someone not even knowing what the price is, and know that it's not going to impact your life too much. So now reverse that back 25 years ago, and I was maybe, 45 now? So yeah, probably 25 years ago. I was about 20. And my uncle was always very well known in Zimbabwe as one of the best stockbrokers. And I always wondered, why? And that's not his opinion. He's a very humble man. He never told me that. I heard that from lots of other people. And I went to him one day and I said, Bill, what do you do that's different? And he said, well, Scott, I just get up an hour earlier and I kind of read the paper. And so when I get to the office and the market opens, I start trading, and everyone else gets to the office and starts reading, and they only trade an hour later. I was like, it can't be that simple. Well, now he's living in Brisbane and he's 8 hours ahead of the market. You do the maths. Okay. But the point of my story is that, what really resonated with me is I noticed whenever we went on holiday with him, he'd be reading the Financial Times or the Business Day, or his fun is reading markets and understanding markets. And, I'll give you an example. We bought shares in an aluminium plant in Mozambique. And the next thing, it went through the roof, doubled or tripled. And I was like, how the hell did you know this was going to happen? He goes, oh no, well, it's obvious. Okay, now, notice the word he used. It's obvious. Okay, well, they got electricity problems in California, and California is one of the biggest aluminium, manufacturers in the world. And because they've got electricity problems in California, the price of aluminium is going to go up. And one of the cheapest aluminium plants in the world is out of Mozambique. And so we invested in Mozambique because I was like, Jesus, how do you join all those dots? Okay, obviously in hindsight, it's really easy to look backwards and go da, da, da. But I mean, how many other scenarios could be out there? You get my point. Okay, now, why am I talking like this? Well, it's because if you do what you love, I think that not only do you get to have an amazing life, but as a consequence, in a good way, you end up creating wealth. Does that make sense? And I think my uncle is someone that epitomizes that. Another person that I had the privilege of spending time with was Richard Branson. And until I met Richard Branson, my mother sort of always taught me that concept of, money doesn't grow on trees and kind of scarcity. I remember once saying to her, I want to own a helicopter. And she goes, you know how many poor children you could feed with your helicopter? That's sort of the house I grew up in. And yet when I met Richard Branson, I realized that you really can have it all. He's got a great wife, he's got great children, he's got 400 businesses. He's had a massive impact on the world in a positive way. He's had a shitload of fun. But I think the point being is that he was 65 years old, and he has absolutely no intention of retiring because he loves his life. So he set his life up, and he wakes up in the morning and he plays tennis against a tennis pro, and then he works till lunchtime, and then he goes kite surfing all afternoon. And my point being is that if I look at either one of those people, they're doing what they love, and the results are a byproduct of what they love. And so my thought process today was to share the concepts of flow, to share the research that I've done personally, because I think if we get into flow as individuals, we'll have more chance of creating the wealth that we want, more than almost anything else. So I've got a video I want to share with you. And this guy is basically what I understand is like the father of flow. And this guy, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Anyway, it's a 3-minute video that kind of sums up how it works.
We're going to explore flow state by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Flow is a state of optimal experience. It describes an experience that's engrossing, intrinsically rewarding, and outside the parameters of worry and boredom. Let's take a look at this diagram. This theory explains the relationship between capacity to act and opportunity to act. If you have given too much opportunities that's way beyond your capacity, it will lead you to anxiety. On the other hand, if you're given too little opportunities that's way below your capacity, it will lead you to boredom. It is only when you perfectly balance between these two that you enter the state of flow. This is where you'll be constantly striving towards the upper right corner of the diagram. When your capacity to act increases, you seek for more opportunities to act. And the more you move in that direction, the more intense the state of flow you'll be in. You may have experienced this before, where you are so engaged in a task that you lost track of time and nothing else seems to matter. In other words, you were in the flow. Let's use an example. A novice cyclist has a low capacity to act, whereas an expert cyclist has a high capacity to act. A straight road offers little opportunity to act, whereas a winding road offers more opportunity to act. If you place an expert cyclist on a straight road, this person will experience boredom, since the person's capacity far exceeds the opportunities to act. Likewise, if you place the novice cyclist on the winding road, this person will experience anxiety, as the opportunities to act far outweighs the person's capacity. Hence, there has to be a balance between capacity and opportunity to act. For this example, placing the expert cyclist on the more challenging road and the novice cyclist on the straight road will put them both in the state of flow. Csikszentmihalyi outlines 6 characteristics that make flow-producing experience worthy of repetition. Number 1, people have clear goals on what they want to achieve and receive immediate feedback on how they're doing. Number 2, they experience intense concentration in the task, that actions and awareness merge. Number 3, they're so immersed in the experience that they block out all other problems or anything that's irrelevant to the task. Number 4, they experience self-forgetfulness and have a heightened awareness of themselves. Number 5, they enjoy a feeling of control over themselves and the environment. Number 6, their experience is autotelic. This means that the experience is so enjoyable that this person desires to repeat the task in the hopes to reproduce the state of flow. Your goal should be to find out what it is that you love and put yourself in the state of flow. And as you get better at it, keep seeking for more challenge. In other words, your main goal is to spend as much of your life as possible to be in the state of flow.
I quite enjoyed that little video. It's nice and short and sweet. And, I've got the 2 diagrams here, and I thought that I would just kind of, show you. But if you've got the clear goals and immediate feedback, the thought process that went through my head when I was preparing for this was, well, if you think about the mastermind, this is what we're trying to do. We've got our outcomes at an annual basis. We've got our, monthly, we're setting our goals, and then we're getting the feedback as in it's working, it's not working, so we're not getting to the end of the year and going, hey, I didn't do anything. We're constantly checking in to see where we're doing along the way. Now, I'm not saying it's perfect, but that was my thought process I went through when I saw this. So again, if you ever want me to share the slides, just let me know. I'm happy to share the slides. But what I wanted to share with you was something that's probably even more valuable. And I found the book, and I've actually been listening. Well, I've already listened to the book by the same dude. And the book is all about understanding the concept of flow as the first step. Okay, because I quite like this. That's why I screenshotted it for you. So, what is it about? Well, hopefully you've just seen it in the 3-minute video. When you learn what research has revealed about the conditions that produce flow, it'll be much easier to build the same conditions into your life. The second step is taking this information and putting it to work for you with conscious, focused effort. So what I realized, and again, if I speak for myself, is that like many things in my life, I've conceptually understood this. I've theoretically even, gone and looked it up, but I've done nothing practically to implement it. Does that make sense? Yes, no? So what I did is I found this book, and that's why I recommend this book, and again, I'm going to share this book with you because I got the PDF, is that this book, and I've got the printed version here. I don't know, I can't see myself, but anyway, I'm holding the printed version. And just for time, I'm just going to show you some stuff. So I'm going to share this book with you, and I recommend that you download it. But what I like about the book, let me just make it a bit bigger so everyone can see it, is that, so in the first chapter, he talks about how he actually found it, and he came from the Second World War, and after the Second World War, some people were happy, some weren't, and they studied over 8,000 people or something. I can't see where the number is here, but anyway, and they found all these principles and concepts. And then he talked about what is flow. So this is where I screenshotted that thing from. But what I like about it, and this is why I'd recommend it and why I did it on paper. And just by the way, I'm going away on Thursday afternoon for a long weekend. There's a place in Plet that I hired a year ago. I do it every year in around the 20th of January, and I've got a day and a half to myself. So I've actually printed this out with the intention of doing these exercises, because that's the part I often don't do. I know the theory, but I don't do the work. Like, does that make sense? So again, use this, don't use it. What I really enjoyed this was the 8 components of enjoyment. Okay, so having a clear goal, getting feedback, challenges matching your skills, concentration, focus, control, loss of self-consciousness, and transformation of time. So I found that, those 8 things very, very useful. Then the next thing that I found useful, I'm just going to go to the parts that I wanted to show you, was this is really interesting, this autotelic. I've never heard of this personality. And the bottom line is it's someone that, no matter what their situation, they find themselves creating a space of flow. It talks about how to create this personality. You need clarity, you need centering, choice, commitment, and a challenge. And then it talks about what the obstacles are. So lack of clarity being the first one. And just by the way, if any of these resonate with you, the nice thing is you can read about it. You can literally, and then it's got exercises to do. So you don't have to do the exercise if it doesn't, if you've got clarity, you don't do this. But if you don't have clarity, then you can do it. If you've got anxiety and frustration, what can you do about it? If you've got boredom and depression, what can you do about it? And then it talks about the body. So the body as flow, and the, what we can actually do with our actual body. And again, there's a whole bunch of exercises. I quite enjoyed this one here, the 5 steps to using your body to create flow. Then you've got flow of thought, which is, all about memory, use of language, and kind of science. So again, it's very much practical stuff. And then this is the one that's probably most relevant to us today in terms of earning income and all that, but it's workers' flow. How are you actually, going about it? What's actually happening? Are you doing what you enjoy? And back to my uncle's example, I think that's really important. And then here are some suggestions for transforming a boring situation into a flow state. Then this one here, relationships, so not necessarily relevant for today, but it's still here. Solitude, flow and family, flow and solitude, flow and family. And there's a whole bunch of exercises. I'm going to skip through some of them. This one here, which I found really interesting, turning stress into strength. So if any of you are dealing with stress, I've been dealing with tremendous stress. Take yourself for granted, immerse yourself in life, try new solutions. So all relevant. And then flow and creativity. This for me is something I've highlighted in terms of the overall process. And then finally, the last one was the making of meaning. Why are we here? What's it all about in terms of the overall process? And then the last thing that I wanted to share with you was just the questions at the end, where there's like a Q&A. So is there an automatic way to get into flow? Can you be in flow all of the time, or do you need to just relax without anything to do? Can flow be addictive? And then this is the one that I thought is really important for our mastermind. Can flow make a person more successful? And it says here, I can't promise that experiencing flow will lead to success in financial or professional terms. However, most successful people get to where they are in large part because they enjoy what they do. The reward is not what you get in the end. The success you achieve comes from the skill you have, the challenges you overcome, and the enjoyment you experience along the way. And I thought that was pretty important for what we're talking about. So I will share this book with you. If you look at what I've done in the PowerPoint, is I've just screenshotted some of the critical things. So I've screenshotted the 8 components. I've screenshotted this, the 5 things around clarity. I've screenshotted what I've just read you about kind of make you more successful. So just quickly, before I move to the next section, any questions or thoughts on what I've just shared there around flow? And by the way, if anyone else has done any, good work or good research or found a good video or good book, please share it on the group as well. As I said to you, I'm a student of flow right now and wanting to understand it better so that I can make sure I'm implementing it in my life.
Can I add something there?
Yeah, please do.
If you've heard of the Ikigai model, it's where if you can do what you love and it meets what the world needs, then you're really looking for success. Yeah, that's the one.
Talk about
and what you can get paid for. That's
the next slide.
Sorry, Scott.
No, it's all good. It's all good. That's why we're here. It's the universe talking to us together. So do you want to talk to this quickly, Rob? Why don't you talk to us? We've got it on the screen.
Yeah, look, I got into this about a year ago, so it's a bit rusty in my mind. I, being a teacher, I'm wanting to actually create an online course for students, sort of 15, 16-year-old students, and because there's just a lack in the schools of direction for students and where they want to go, and consequently many make wrong career choices. And as part of my online course, I've offered this model, and it's really finding what you love, but if you can match it with the gaps with what the world needs and what people are prepared to pay for. If you love something, I think if you go to the green circle, you are naturally good at it. I 100% get that. When you have a passion, you're just naturally good at it. You're not going to be good at something if you absolutely hate it. But if you can match your passion with what you need and what people are actually prepared to pay for, then you're going to be extremely successful. Having said all that, though, as far as students or children go, the careers in the world have changed so much over the last decade, and even in the next year, they're going to be quite different because the world is moving at such a fast pace that what used to be careers that were optimal or highly sought of are not necessarily anymore. So you've got to constantly, it's a case of choosing what you love. Does the world need it at this moment in time? Because if it doesn't, find something that's close. And there's, I've always said, there's doctors, there's nurses, there's nurse aides. The world might not be needing doctors, but they might really be needing nurse aides or therapists. So it'll fit into what you love, but it's more what the world needs and are more what you're prepared to pay, what people are prepared to pay for. Then you will be really successful. So within the what you love thing, there may be a few things that I always, in my course, I sort of recommend that you narrow it down to about 5 things, then research. Which of those does the world need most for and are prepared to pay for?
Awesome. Well, thank you. I've shared this article, which is from the World Economic Forum, which kind of talks a little bit about it, if you're wanting to understand it better, but I've shared it with you all in the group. Thanks, Robin. You've just covered, there were 3 parts to this and you just covered the second part, so I appreciate it.
Sorry, Scott.
No, it's brilliant. No, we're here to share. Eh? This is not a one to many, it's many to many, so yeah, I love this concept as well. I think it's really important. And I think, that's why I started with the story of my uncle and Richard Branson, is because I believe that personal stories move people more than just theory and practical. Does that make sense? So, like it's two real life humans that I've met that sit right in the middle there. And as I said to you, both of them have a life far beyond lots of money in the bank account, which I think is important. The other thing I wanted to share with you was this, and funny enough, this came from Lyndon many years ago. So I just need to change the PowerPoint because it was a different. So Robin, talk about synchronicity. You said, how do you create high-performing teams? So this for me is a combination of how to create a high-performing team, but equally, if you want to look at it from yourself, it's how to be high-performing. And so how do you get high performance? Well, the first thing is you got to have competence, ability to do my role well, knowledge, skills, understanding, IQ, experience. Then you got to be in flow. Love what I do. Can't wait to get up in the morning. Time flies, feels easy. Purpose. I can achieve my purpose while helping the team achieve our collective purpose. Strategy. Right plan and implementation to achieve our purpose. My role is clear. Values. My values and behaviors aligned with the team's values. I can fully show up. And then positive intelligence. I keep my mind working for me rather than against me. The team is able to do the same as a collective. So this is the model. Again, I am happy to share this PowerPoint with you because there's some great questions here where it goes into individually. So where am I on the high performance pathway? Again, these questions, if you're wanting to, you can sit down and go, am I competent? Do I have the knowledge, the expertise, skills to do what I'm meant to do? Am I in flow? Do I wake up in the morning and love what I'm doing? Do I get fully engaged in my activities where time flies? I feel energized and I'm most productive. Do I have clear goals and purpose? Am I exquisitely clear on my life's purpose as I see it at this point in my life? Do I have clear long, medium, and short-term goals or intentions? Are they strongly aligned with all the aspects of my purpose? Have I got the right strategy? Is my strategy for life in alignment with my goals and purpose? Is what I focus on and how I spend my time and energy aligned to my goals and purpose? Are my values and behavior aligned? Who do I want to show up as through my behavior? Is how I actually behave aligned with who I want to be? And then finally, do I have positive intelligence? Am I in charge of my mind, automatic reactions, patterns, thoughts? Or is it a habitual mind in charge of my life? Do I know how quickly to shift the state of my mind, the mood I'm in, or what thoughts I'm paying attention to? So there's sort of 6 questions that are quite useful. And Robin, for Rob, maybe he could just volunteer a little exercise to run the team through this one, which is the same thing at the team level, but I'm not going to bore everyone with it. But I'm happy to share the PowerPoint with you if it's of interest. So my intention today from a flow perspective was, often people have heard of the concept, etc. And because we're sitting in January as we go, with a whole year ahead of us, I thought that those 3 exercises that I provided you, by the way, you don't have to do them. I'm not trying to overwhelm you with information. I'm just trying to show you like quick action items where you can literally like take the book and it's only 18 pages and do the exercises if you want to, or take the PowerPoint and there's only 6 questions. I mean, it's literally 6 questions, around high performance. Now, again, like if we're wanting to have a successful year and, we're going to have to, be high performing, so, and funny enough, a key guy, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, key guy or whatever. I just thought I would finish with that because it's such a beautiful concept of, loving what you do. What does the world need? What are you getting paid for, etc. And I just think we should all be reviewing it. And, at the beginning of the year, it's always a good time to review, am I doing the right thing? And then obviously our investing is a byproduct of the productivity we have, if that makes sense. So I don't know, thoughts, comments, questions around what I've shared. I'll share the content with you. I do find it a balance, and I'd love feedback as well on it, is that, we could have spent some more time today doing some of the exercises, but I also think it's very valuable, the conversations we're having and getting different people's perspective versus just kind of one directional learning. because the exercises are there and we can all do them whenever we want to, if we want to do them. So, but yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts, feedback, on what I've shared.
Well, Graham here, I just really like that flow concept, because my wife and I fly fish, and it's the ultimate flow to be out there in nature. It's the ultimate connection, and to be successful at it and enjoy it, you have to be in flow. And I don't care if I don't catch a fish. It's the whole experience of connecting with nature, connecting with, what bugs are out there, what fly I should use, what's happening under the water. It's that whole flow. And so I just wanted to say, that's how I link to what you're talking about, is I really get it because of that. If I could bring that into the business side, that'd be fantastic.
Awesome. Well, hopefully I've just shared some tools that that you can use, Graham. Again, my frustrating thing is Lyndon shared that presentation with me 6 years ago, and if I just implemented what the hell I learned, it would be useful. Anyone else?
Yeah, Scott, I'm really looking forward to reading that Living with Flow. I think that's amazing. When I was working for the gym group in the UK, that was us. We worked, it was 24-hour gyms. We were always in our flow. And obviously when we floated on the London Stock Exchange and the bell rang, I remembered phoning Carrie and going, okay, well, now what? Because where do you go from here? So yes, we came back to South Africa. Yes, we've got our rental properties, and then it's a case of, okay, so yeah, now what? You go to school, you find a job, you get your income, but then when you get to a point where your assets start paying you, now you can go do what you want to do. But now, that's a real question. What do you actually want to go and do? So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to reading this Living with Flow. I think it's going to be awesome.
Awesome. No, thanks, Kerry. Appreciate it. And I mean, look, you guys epitomize exactly that. I'm so glad you shared your story again, because, highly successful teams and the results, it's there's a science, there's almost a formula to it. If you look at all of them that succeed,
Yeah, but Scott, it's also, when we started, it was the culture within the company. It wasn't a hierarchy. We kept it very, very lean. And we were all one team, and we moved as one team. And to this day, John Trahan, he's always turned around and he says, you know what, the one thing he would never do is tell people to float their company, because you could actually see the whole shift in the culture of the team. We suddenly became all about chasing the bottom line, greed. It was horrible. I couldn't get out of there fast enough towards the end. And it was actually really sad, because you built this amazing company. And then you get these, what they call the big people come in, and now you have to set up this committee to discuss this and another committee to do this, to do this, to do this. And they're all chasing the bottom line, which we get. But at the fundamental core of it is the team and the culture. So yeah, we got to see both sides. We got it from startup right through to the end. And I can honestly say, if we are ever successful again to launch our own company and you get to the point of, do you float or not? No, because the dynamics just completely changed. And it was so sad to see, because even I lost heart, in a company that you started building. So yeah, culture.
Everyone loves going to.
So we understand where you are.
We all know Richard Branson's story, where he floated and then bought the company back in like 3 years. He's like, sod this, I can't work like this, I actually last night thought about bringing that story up, because it's so like relevant, it's like, because Richard Branson's motto is like, screw it, let's do it. And if I use the realty mogul thing, if it was my decision, it would have been, screw it, let's do it. We probably it would be live now. It's like, anyway. Anyone else? What we said? I have shared the stuff already in the WhatsApp group with everything. I will put everything on the Google Sheet, but just for now, it's easy. I'll just put it up there quickly for you. And if you're not on the right group or whatever, I'll figure that out. But anyway, like it's all there.
Scott, if I can just add one more thing. Hello?
Yeah, we got you.
Oh, okay. on my way back from Zambia, I met someone who has picked up on a Cape Town fad of all fads. And this one's a really good one coming out of Cape Town. And it's find your word for the year. And it really beats New Year's resolutions. And I think it's got something to do with flow. So you choose a word for the year. And the idea is to be conscious of that word every day by saying it in as many sentences as you can, and thinking it and feeling it to the point that it actually becomes part of your flow. And I've managed to say, I've chosen peace as my word for this year. And because I'm a bit like you, I live in drama and chaos. And it's been incredible.
Drama and chaos. What are you talking about?
It's like changed my, you know, people have commented and they say, you're so calm, you just, you know, you look like you've been on holiday. And it's because I'm consciously thinking of being more peaceful and making that word part of my inner being and core. And it's definitely, I'm flowing far better just having that one word in my life. And it beats a resolution because you're thinking of it every single day. You know, resolutions die on the 1st of January, but this has actually lived through to the 18th of January.
Awesome. It's my task. Number one task. Love it. Awesome. Okay. Well, anyone else have a burning desire? Are we good? I'm just conscious of time here. No. Well, thank you for sharing in terms of that. So, and I love that word idea, Robin. You know, I think one of the things I've learned over the years, I'll actually share something with you quickly just to show you. Just give me 2 seconds. So I learned this from kind of, you know, through the years, and if you've ever seen it, like I've done it, like it's a whole combination of Tony Robbins and Dr. Hannes Dreyer and a whole bunch of other people. And what I realized is that I went, like, if I go and look, why is this not opening? You know, I've got extensive kind of goal schedules and everything else, like huge amount of things, like down to the year and, you know, 7 different levels and right through to 2037 when I'm 60. And, you know, financial, vocational, mental, family, social, physical, you know, then I've got my SMART goals for the year, which are my annual goals. Then I've got my quarterly goals, and you might notice it says 2021 there. Because what I realized is that, like, there's so much detail. Like I spent like a day or two like writing this all out. Okay. And then I get to the end of the year, it's like, didn't make a huge amount of progress there. And what I realized is simplicity is power. And that's why, like, even in our outcomes thing, it's like, what are the 3 outcomes? Not 500 things. What are the 3 things you want to achieve? Like, does that make sense? You know, and I think as I've got older, I've learned that the more, it's actually harder to get simple. And the more you take the time to get simple, and if you take what you just said, Robin, now you bring it down to 1 word, and you know, it's like, oh yes, that's quite a thing to make. But maybe it's a challenge for all of us, because if you can get it down to that simplicity, then you've got more chance of achieving it than almost anything else, you know. So maybe we should add it to the Google sheet. What's the 1 word for the year? In fact, I'm going to do that. You don't have to fill it in if you don't want to, but I'm going to. So that we've got it. So anyway, thank you for that. Right, let me just, I just want to run through the PowerPoint here. So just a quick update in terms of where we're at. So in terms of Wealth Migrate, we've had a bit of a tumultuous time in the last month or 2 in terms of what's been happening. In simple terms, and the best way to describe it is that we've had a strategy within the business. I'm just going to stop sharing so I can see everyone. We've had a strategy within the business called Strategic Partners, which I learned from Roger Hamilton back in 2018, early 2019. He still to this day does it they're listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And what he basically said to me in late 2018, 2019, when I was part of his mastermind, was he was like, look, there's 2 ways to grow a company. One is organic growth and one is through partnerships and licenses. So we went to his accountants and we pretty much understood how it worked. We then went to our accountants and we said, look, this is how it works. You know, what do you think? And they came back to us and they said, yep, we can do it. So we effectively started it in 2019. And we basically grown the business in 2 ways, one organic growth and one in in strategic partnerships and licenses. And when someone bought a license, they got a whole package of things, including equity, but it was put through to revenue. And that's the way it was understood. Now, we dealt with the accountants in 2019, we dealt with the auditors, 2019, no issue. 2020, same thing, no issue. 2021, no issue, we did it again. And suddenly in the late 2022, it's still part of the strategy in 22, but in late 2022, the accountants come back and say, hey, you're not allowed to put this through to revenue because there's equity involved. And I'm like, well, I don't know, it's a difference of opinion. Like two different accountants are saying two different things. Anyway, it got quite nasty towards the end of last year, a lot of drama. And with regards to kind of the platform and where it's at, one of the reasons that I've been, and again, slightly off the record if you don't mind, but one of the reasons I've been talking with Calio is, I really want to be able to have a family office, not only with the licensing ability, but with the ability to really bring quality assets from all over the place. And the one thing they don't have, because they only deal with high net worths, that I don't know the exact number, but my understanding is they only got like 50 clients. So like they don't need fancy digital tech and stuff. Like if you're going to wire $1 million, you just wire it. And when they're going to wire you back your return, they just wire it back in your bank account. So one of the things that I've been talking to them about for the best part of 6 months is a collaboration around, us providing the digital tech, but they bringing all the stuff that we haven't had, that really kind of sophisticated financial, all that side. And that includes the back office, the supply. There were three things, sorry. Oh, and the licensing, the compliance. The other thing that's awesome, they got licensing in America, they got licensing in South Africa. I'm actually asking if they got licensing in the UK, because that'll literally be a home run for us. What does this all mean? Well, in simple terms, the deals that are currently on the platform, there's no issue and there's no risk. And the platform is running and the deals effectively are being, dividends are being paid and everything else. But I do need to replace Rion, because he's the custodian, he's going to look after the current deals, but he doesn't want to go forward looking after like new deals, etc., which is not necessarily a bad thing. I like Rion, I respect his due diligence, but we haven't had the ability to bring on multiple assets, in different areas, etc. Our last commercial property was in July last year. So it's a short-term frustration. I'm actually quite annoyed by the whole thing. It's been really difficult. And from a shareholder perspective, we actually voted last night on, what are the next steps in terms of where we're going. So I'll keep you guys updated in terms of where that's at, but I just wanted to be completely transparent. The good news, okay, and for me, this is a good news from a Mastermind perspective, is that even if the Wild Migrate platform was to disappear tomorrow morning, Calio, and that's why I've been talking with both the founder, the CEO, and the chairman, want to partner with us in the concept of the Mastermind anyway, because what they want to do in terms of their whole asset management, and I don't want to sit here and try and sound clever with that type of languaging, but they believe that this whole world is changing and that the whole approach with masterminds could replace an entire division that they've got. And so they see it as a strategic focus within their business, full stop, which I'm, like I said to you in my check-in, I'm really chuffed with, because what that means is in any negotiation, it's always good to have two options. Does that make sense? And ideally for me, it's about bringing them together. So, all I would say from my perspective is that, Shane and I worked this weekend on the Wealth University and the Mastermind. I think it's essential that we do have a digital platform for us to be able to invest in. And what that looks like is going to be evolved over the next couple of weeks. And I personally am really hoping that that we can actually come into so that in Calio they call it Geo Capital, which is a collaboration of all their businesses. And I'm actually hoping that we can come in as a piece of their businesses. And I tell you why, because we will then not only have access to Calio, but we'll have access to all their partner companies, and we will, in partnership with them, provide the digital framework sitting in the middle. So that's kind of the synopsis of where it's at. And for the shareholders, as in Kerry, I don't know if anyone else is a shareholder on this group, but you guys didn't get that conversation last night because I couldn't get into that type of detail, So just for us, it is important, but equally, if you want me to share the recording, it's like 2.5 hours from last night. I'm happy to, from a transparency perspective. If you want to kind of know what's happened, why it's happened, etc. I'm quite happy to share it. I don't know, Kerry or Karen, I don't want to throw you, but if you've got any comments just in terms of an update, even from last night, you don't have to if you don't want to. I'm just saying, I know you were there.
No, it's cool. I think last night was really beneficial. You were awesome in it, Scott. And I resonate with a lot of what you're saying and the pain that you're going through just from past experiences and, you know, with things. It's really exciting to hear what you discussed about Kaleo. So, and future things. I just hope that it goes in that direction and yeah, because it would be such a shame. I mean, Wealth Migrate's just freaking awesome. So yeah.
Cool. So I think just for us as a mastermind, and I think it's really important to remember the mastermind is independent of Wealth Migrate anyway. But we have worked on on two solutions either way, so that we can still, because it's, you know, for me, it's all good and well to do what we're doing, but we still want to be investing to achieve our outcomes. Does that make sense? You know, for all of us. Okay. So yeah, sorry, I spoke about Kaleo. And then equally with regards to Kaleo, for me, one of the things that I'm wanting to do, that I'm talking with Garth about, is actually setting up a market review, and I'm trying to get a date with him and his team, hopefully towards the end of January, if not, you know, early February, which will effectively be our first update for the year. But I want to kind of get, you know, if I remind you of that slide, hang on, I'll have to find it for you quickly. Sure, where would it be? Anyway, I just want to find that slide of Garth. Give me 2 seconds quickly. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, if you remember this slide, you know, Garth said the 1% can pay for advice and get the results. We need to support everyone else to get the access to the same advice and results. And for me, you know, that's what I was sort of trying to say in actually why I'm quite excited about the possibility of what we're talking about. So yeah, that will be the market review. Just my only request is watch the space. I'll let you know kind of where we're at. So have I lost you just 2 seconds? And then let me share my screen again. Cool, Graham. I'm literally one last thing, and then I know you got a duck. And then the last thing was I sent out a survey on the WhatsApp group. If you didn't get it, my invitation is to do it. And one of the reasons for it is that we're really looking to try and add as much value as possible. There's different people that are you know, bringing different things together. And so what I did is I created a survey, you know, what can help you make it amazing, you know, and then the different kind of things. And as an example, Dr. Faisal Harris, the gentleman we met in December, Shane and I met with him last weekend on Saturday, and he's putting a course together around mental wealth. Okay, so and he's going to let us know all the details, etc., etc. But I just thought, you know, with the psychology and everything else, there could be a huge amount of benefit. And I mean, he only ever does this one-to-one for people. In fact, he's only done it with one-to-one people at a high performance level. But when he came to our mastermind last December, it opened his eyes to what's possible. And he said, well, hang on, maybe we can do the same principle I do one-to-one, but within the mastermind. And then you'll just see here, there were a bunch of different things that we put down, you know, where people, you know, might want to, you know, have focus areas. This is the one one of us on this group might be working on. But it was really about like the different areas, and some of them will be nothing to you and others will, but it's always just interesting for us to know what could add more value, where you're at, what do you want, you know what I mean? And that's what we're trying to work on all the time from Shane and I's perspective of how can we add more value. So Graham, I know you got a duck. Oh, sorry, you got a duck. Cool. But that I just wanted to give you conceptual in terms of that. So thanks for being here, and good luck. Quick question that I wanted to ask everyone. Am I still sharing my screen? No. So Faisal actually just sent me a picture. This is his book that's about to come out. Which book cover do you like more? I said I'd ask, considering we were on. He literally sent it to me this morning. So it's the latest book. It's called Exceptional Advanced Performance to Sort the Best from the Rest. So that's the one. And then he sent me that one. Which one do you like? Number 1 in green or number 2 in orange? Or whatever that is, yellow, gold.
Number 1.
Number 1?
I like number 2.
Number 1.
I like number 2.
Also number 1.
Oh, we got split by because we got 1-1. Okay. Oh, geez, I don't know how he's going to do this.
Two.
Okay.
Just put it in the chat.
That's a good idea. Just chuck it in the chat and let's just see, because I can't hear everyone shouting out. So anyway, I just said I'd ask him. I haven't even thought about it, but I just thought I'd put it up there. Okay, awesome. So we'll let you we'll let you know once we've got some more feedback around what he's doing. I'm really I've done some sort of one-to-one stuff with him, and I'm quite impressed with what he's doing and where the world's going. So I'm equally intrigued to see, because what he does is he sits with one person, and it's a 6-month program, and I'm interested to see how within a 6-month period he could take us through the same program but together. And if you're interested in it, like in that survey, let me know. If you're not interested, no problem. Like it's I'm just trying to see what people think. So I think that's everything. I know we're on time in terms of 11 o'clock, but as I always promise, does anyone want to do a hot seat? Is there any burning issue that anyone wants to work through that I can assist with, basically? And I always joke with people, the hot seat is you get to sort of sit here and we can help you. Or you can kind of carry the problem on your shoulder all by yourself.
No.
No one? So my invitation, just reminding you every time, is that I'll try and finish kind of around the 2-hour mark. I can't ever guarantee it because it depends how much we talk, if that makes sense. So like me, I actually have my own coaching session at 12 o'clock. Like I put in 5 breaks because I don't know quite how long it's going to take. So that's my invitation. And, I want to be fully, just in terms of time, but I'll keep myself always available, even if people need to duck to do a hot seat if you want to. Like that's, what I'm trying to help with, if that makes sense. So if there is something, let me know, even if you're wanting to, if you want to do it privately, let me know, but it would need to be like now in the session, because I keep the space anyway, if that makes sense. Okay. And just by the way, it could be anything. I mean, Robin, it could have been how to sort out, ex-sister-in-law. Like I might not be the best person to speak about, but for all I know, Kim dealt with that, 10 years ago, and he can help,
Yeah, that is it is an issue for Rob, especially considering it's family, and now you're working for or under family, and like I say, getting the in-law interference. So it's very difficult because you don't want to. Rob's brother is now the ham and the sandwich. He's caught between Rob and his wife. And as I said to Rob, when it comes to a husband-wife relationship, your brother is forced or has to choose his wife over you. So you have to be very delicate with the way you handle it, because he will choose her over you.
No, completely.
Any advice, Kim?
No.
Actually, I've never really experienced that problem before.
I was just joking with you, Kim. I was just like, any of us.
No, I know that, but I've never actually experienced it before, so I couldn't help. I'm sorry.
All right.
Look, to be honest, I have experienced it. My ex-wife and my mother hated each other, and I divorced my ex-wife. Like, it was the only way to solve the problem. I spent 10 years trying to solve it. I've been to every coach from Tony Robbins to you name it, and eventually I was like, I can't fix this problem. Like, and if my ex-wife had her way, I would have not spoken to my mother, and that just wasn't happening. So yeah. I don't. It's not what you want to hear. But all I'm saying is sometimes you try your best and it ain't fixable. Like,
I think so. And sometimes I think the older we get, our personalities become more ingrained in us. And I said to Rob, at the end of the day, it's not worth the risk of your relationship with your brother. You know, if you have to walk away and you have to walk away from this experience in Zambia, walk away from it, because as I say, the grass isn't always necessarily greener on the other side. The grass is still green here, and the idea of that, you know, adventure was to earn that extra income to be able to invest with you and to grow ourselves through investing by having that extra. But there are other ways that we can figure to do it. And yeah, I think some things are solvable and some you've just got to choose to walk away from.
The only other thing I would say, and I can see Shane said they over communicate, is on Sunday night I watched a TED, well, it is a TED talk, but it's well, it's not a TED talk actually. It's on Netflix by Brené Brown, and it's I mean I've seen it before and I can't even remember what it's called, but it's about an hour and 20 minutes long, so it's not a TED talk. It's a proper talk, and she talks a lot about relationships. She talks about her own marriage, and that's actually what gave me the idea when Shane said over communicate. And yeah, it's again, maybe for him it'd be worth him watching that and then trying to lean in and as she talks about it, and the courage to be vulnerable. I'm talking with the brother to start off with, and then if it works, you know, then it works. And I think what you've said there is sometimes it doesn't work and you back off. But I know for a fact I watched that on Sunday night, and I tried quite hard last night with the shareholders to emulate that. You know, in terms of, you know, actually the hard stuff is having the courage to have the conversation, you know.
Yeah.
So, okay. Look, it's 20 past. What I'd like to do is just check out for everyone. So just sort of, if you remember with any kind of mastermind group, we check in so that we're present and we check out, so we close the container. So just the question that I'd like to kind of finish off with is, you know, really no kind of 30 seconds, but just how did you find today's session and your one key takeaway?
I'll go first. I think that if you can establish that concept of flow, then automatically it will also make your time management easier. So the two are, well, in my mind at this point in time at least, linked together. So that's definitely something to maybe look into for the future, and see to what extent time management and flow is actually interlinked.
Perfect.
I loved it because you don't get sung happy birthday to all the time. So thanks everyone again. That was great. Two things. It's definitely that living with flow. I'm really keen to get stuck into that, and that word, to find the word. That's got us thinking.
Yeah, that was a great little insight from Robin. So thanks.
Yeah, two words. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, enjoy the rest of your birthday, and thanks for spending 2.5 hours with us.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Who's up?
Yeah, I think I've said enough, but yeah, happy birthday, Kerry, and all's good.
Just quickly, just before I forget, I've added in the golden goal the word for the year here. So it's on the right-hand side, column H. If you want to use it just to put down a word. Okay.
Sorry, just one more thing. Robin, are you going to join us more? Because it's been very interesting listening to you.
Well, I will always be listening in, whether Rob's present or not, because yeah, we're kind of known as the Robs. We kind of like Bostic and Prestic, and unfortunately, there's quite a few miles between us at the moment, which is a challenge. But yeah, I'm sort of the vocal one of the couple. It's not that Rob doesn't have the thoughts; he's just Well, I don't let him get a word in edgeways.
Okay, cool. No, because I'm interested in what you were saying with your online with the children and your ikigai, and that. I appreciate what you're trying to do there.
Yeah.
As I joke, Kerry, when we were, when you're doing the mastermind intro, whatever you call that call, and I could see Rob, but I could hear someone talking like, so what's your name, Rob? Okay, thank you. What's your it's like, anyway, and actually then, I actually mentioned the two of you, again, for me, there's no issue, like if your partner is part of it, because this is a journey we're going on. The only time it becomes an issue is if you've got aligned outcomes, that's fine. But you've got two people, two different outcomes, then effectively we're not going to be at 10 people, we're at 20 people, so.
Yeah.
So, okay. Awesome. And that's for everyone else, by the way. It's an open invitation if anyone else wants people to join.
Yeah. But having said that,
come and see how our cult's working.
I would love to see Wealth Educate. I've always, at the back of my mind thought I would love to set up like a Wealth Educate program where we're dealing with teenagers. And in my course, I actually, at the end of it, I have, well, how do you keep your wealth? It's all about finding the right career for yourself, finding the right life for yourself. And then once you've got that, a lot of people, they don't actually know how to keep it. And so I've got a whole lot of, like I say, I'm a bit rusty on it. But one of the things I've actually sort of have is a link to Scott's Wealth Migrate, because I do think teenagers, it would be really good to give them $100 and say, take that $100 and go and invest it in a property. Start. Even if it's $50, and Scott's platform offers teenagers of sort of 16 up who are now really thinking about life, that opportunity to get started, because we never had that opportunity. Consequently, we're on this course. But if they can get started at a young age, wow.
No, completely.
Absolutely.
Well, Shane, I hope you're taking lots of notes. Who else? Volker, you haven't gone. Hannah, Ken, Kim, sorry.
Yeah, so I think today really resonated around the whole topic of flow, and I've looked into the Ikigai stuff a while back as well. And it's something I sort of struggled with, or still struggle with a little bit, that purpose and finding that, where everything comes together. What am I really good at, and what can you contribute, and all those, that 4 elements. So it's still something that I am exploring. And I hope that if I read that book and go through the actions, that might also help to clarify a little bit more of that. So I'm really looking forward to, because I also booked out a weekend to go out on my own, like you are doing, but that's probably only in a week or two's time. So yeah, that will be a nice time to go through it.
Awesome. Yeah, no, fantastic, mate. Hannah, do you want to go? Kim, do you want to go?
Yeah, I would say that the book probably will work as a template for my new lifestyle that I intend to implement, being semi-retired and standing back. So hopefully it'll help.
Awesome. Fantastic. Dana.
From my side, I'm intending to get into flow and do all that's required regarding that, and then also to get to the one word that I will focus on.
Awesome. Shane?
Yeah, when you were talking about flow, it reminded me of a course I did by Stephen Kotler The Habit of Ferocity, and he's got a section in there on flow, and he talks a lot about finding flow triggers. So what are those things that trigger you to get into a state of flow? And I actually completely forgot all about that, so I need to go back and find my notes and kind of just review them and see if I can get those flow triggers out again.
You actually reminded me, Shane, I meant to put it in the presentation. I actually forgot. This book here, Stealing Fire, is the one that he wrote. And the other one is The Rise of Superman. So both of these books I've read. They're both audio books, and I highly recommend if you're wanting to understand this concept. Because he basically goes and looks at high performance athletes and people that are big wave surfers and all that sort of stuff and what they do. And then Stealing Fire, I can't remember one of them. Oh yeah, that one comes first, that one comes second. I actually preferred Stealing Fire. If you don't have time for 2 books, I'd read this book, because like most authors, you get the pricey version of the previous one and then you get more in the second one. So I would read this one first, Stealing Fire. But very good book. I'll put it in the chat group. But yeah, thanks for that, Shane. That's a good catch. Okay, let me just take that. So I've got a copy of it. Yeah, so from my side, as always, I deeply appreciate these masterminds. And for me, my big takeaway, and fun enough, is the synchronicity of 2 things. One is, Robin, you bringing up Akija, which I just find weird in a nice way. And secondly, for me, that one word thing, I've already committed. Mine is joy. So that's my and for me, there's pillars to that. Like flow is one of those. Like you've got to be doing what you love to experience joy. So yeah, my last thing that I'll say is, with gratitude to all of you. Because what the mastermind forces me to do is to stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning studying flow so that I can share it with you. So rather than just understanding the concept, I actually went and practically did the work in preparation. But now my commitment to you and myself is to start to implement it, because otherwise I'll just have the theory. Have an awesome month. We'll chat, and yeah, Vilka, don't forget to send me a message so we can set up our one-to-one. And yeah, let me know if there's anything else that I can assist with, or anything else that any questions you got.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye then.
Thank you.
Guys, cheers.
Thank you. Bye.